Hello, everybody, and after a month-long hiatus, welcome back to Create Speak. I'm your host, John the Bopper, and today on this episode we have a very special guest. He's an incredibly talented content creator. He's made really cool stuff on YouTube, such as Gage Your Interest, a incredible series of really fun video essays. Give it up for Gage Agnew.
Hello, Mr. John the Bopper. Thank you for having me on the program.
Thank you for coming on to the program, Gage. It's good to have you here.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here. Normally I'm the one doing interviews, but today I get to be the interviewee, so it should be fun.
Yeah, I figured that this would be a nice change of pace. So, one of the first things that I want to ask you is how you got into the whole making videos thing.
Sure. When I was growing up, I initially wanted to be an actor. And I really liked performing for people and being a big old ham. But then I started acting in plays, and I kind of got in the back of my head, I don't like being told what to do. So I started making videos in high school, and thankfully we had this editing class. We had a teacher named Mr. Sauer who helped us edit videos, and so I've been editing in Premiere Pro since high school. And I've kind of fallen in love with it ever since. I wanted to go to college for filmmaking, but instead I did digital media communications. So yeah, I did that, and then I moved to Los Angeles, and here I am now making silly little videos.
Man, that sounds very familiar. That's almost exactly how I got started.
It's like looking into the past at a younger version of me.
Yes. So tell me a little bit about the different series or videos that you've worked on in the past that you're particularly proud of.
Yeah, I have about 4 series going. Some of them I give more love to the others. The first and foremost one is Gage Your Interest. Gage Your Interest is a video essay series about media that I just really like. I initially wanted to do more obscure sectors of media, but the more I did it, the more I was like, I'll just do it on whatever I want. And then I have Mildly Familiar, which sometimes people follow me on Twitter or Instagram or whatever, and I kind of know them, and then I bring them on for an interview. There's also Almost Adults, which is my podcast series, which I do about once a year, and I bring on guests from wherever, mainly new media places. And then I have the last one is a new one I'm kind of trying to get us in the swing of, which is called The Black Curtain Saga. And it sounds really pretentious, but I assure you, it is just a ranty YouTube video. It is the least amount of effort I put into my videos.
Gotcha. Honestly, that was mainly for the audience at home. I am a massive fan of almost all of your work, so...
Oh, thank you. Yeah, if anyone wants to check me out, I know plugs aren't here quite yet, but I am Gage Agnew pretty much everywhere.
Yeah, no, that's fine. But yeah, I mean, you put a lot of effort into a lot of your work. Specifically, I see it a lot in Gauge Your Interest. How does your creative process kind of work from coming up with the idea for the video to the final video?
I usually have Gauge Your Interest ideas like about a year in advance at this point, just because.
Holy shit!
I just really like talking about certain subjects, and whenever I have sort of an offhand idea, I'm like, oh, that's great. I put it in the little notes app in my phone, and I usually try to get guests for the Gauge Your Interest too, so I spend a lot of time emailing people and reaching out. And if I want it to be a particularly big Gauge Your Interest, like Resident Evil or Ace Attorney, those were kind of bigger Gauge Your Interests. I try to kind of get higher profile guests for that, and then we schedule filming, and then I film with my my great friend Dan Kaka. He runs his own podcast called How Did This Not Get Made, and he's also great at filmmaking and directing. Great guy. He helps me direct and plan out all the storyboards for the YouTube videos that I do. And I guess I'm mainly talking about Gauge Your Interest, but that's what I put the most effort into.
Yeah, that's your bread and butter, pretty much.
That's my butter and jam. But anyways, yeah, we like for Resident Evil, we rented out this big kind of antique house, and we kind of pretended like it was a mansion from one of the Resident Evil games. And then I typically do all the editing myself. If there's something different in the editing process that I'm not particularly keen on, like my friend Aaron Overton does a bunch of music stuff. Sometimes there's like a song in there, or there's like a musical track. I usually bring it to him. I've known him since high school, so a lot of my silly ideas, he's like, oh yeah, I get what you're going for. And yeah, I do that. I commission a thumbnail from one of my artist friends. A lot of great ones I've worked with over the years. I've worked with Zitty Bones, I've worked with Doopy Doodles, I've worked with the Fabs. All of these great artists help me with the thumbnails that I do. And yeah, and after that, I put out the video, and it gets 3 views.
Oh no, I absolutely feel that. Yeah, but I mean, I'm genuinely surprised that you don't have at least 1,000, maybe even 100,000 subscribers. You deserve it. Like genuinely,
Yeah.
I do think so.
Thanks very much, John. I appreciate that, but I'm obviously not entitled to any subscribers whatsoever.
Well, yeah.
I just enjoy making the videos as they are. But yeah, a couple more people watching my stuff would be nice. But you know, that's the way the internet goes sometimes.
Yeah. No, it can be a fickle ocean out here. So, but so as far as the actual like research for your essays, how do you go about that usually when you need to look into like the background of a certain series?
Yeah. Typically for the games, I like to play through all the games in the series. The Ace Attorney one took me about a year. That's why it took so long to make that one, because there's the original 3, which is pretty much available on everything under the HD trilogy, and the other 3 are on 3DS, and that's a little harder to get a hold of. So typically I like to indulge any of the media, video games, movies, whatever, before I start writing. And a lot of people kind of make fun of the Wikipedia stuff, but Wikipedia is a great kind of overview of it all. And if there's anything in there that I was like, ooh, I'm particularly interested in that, there's a little citation that you can press and it goes to BBC or whatever. And yeah, I write that, and I reach out to people who I have an idea for a cameo if they are so inclined to. And that person saying yes or no kind of influences where I go with my writing. A great example with that is Chris Raygun. He great creator, very fast, very cool editing, incredibly funny guy too. He played the prosecutor in my Ace Attorney video, and so I had to kind of write his character as people know him from his YouTube persona. And that was a lot of fun because I got to be kind of insulty and jabby and quick-witted, and he delivered those lines beautifully as well. Sorry. So I kind of went off on a tangent, but my writing process is it's a bit-by-bit thing. Research, and then characters who I'm supposed to write around, and what I want to get across in the actual information dump of it.
Yeah, I think that's what I really like about like your video essays that sort of separate them from other things I've seen, is that you do such a great job at like balancing an interesting narrative with providing the information that people sort of came to see, and it makes watching both ends of that sort of spectrum worthwhile. So how do you find like that balance, between like actually writing the characters and writing around them and providing the information on the media you're talking about?
Thank you. I appreciate that, first and foremost. But character-wise and plot-wise, for those who don't know, Gauge Your Interest, typically the newer Gauge Your Interest. There's older Gauge Your Interest out there that you can watch that are not as good, or no, I shouldn't say not as good.
Yeah, I mean, I still think they're good.
They're not as stylized as the ones that I have currently in the running. But yeah, I'm sorry. What was the? Oh yes, narrative and the narrative parts and the information parts. I think that started. I want to say it might have been Resident Evil, because Resident Evil was like a huge production. I had to like rent out a big place. I had a crew, and so I wanted these narrative beats to kind of align with the information as I was telling the story as well. And so I'm like, I don't want to name any number, but renting out a big house and like paying the crew, it takes a decent chunk out of your wallet. So I'm like, okay. And I only wanted to rent it for just like the cold open, honestly. I just wanted to rent it for the cold open and then maybe like an ending segment. But when I was told by the guy, he's like, yeah, I have to rent this out for 6 hours or it's not worth renting out at all. So
in that case, okay, you gotta get your money's worth.
Exactly, yeah. I'm like, all right, well, if I'm going to have this for 6 hours, we're going to do 6 hours of work. And so we had a lot of little things going. And I, in retrospect, I wish I had tied it more to the actual information bits. I think I've gotten better at that at the time. But yeah, I like to set up like a story when I do these Gauge Your Interest. I set up a little story like, oh, I have a crush on a girl, or oh, I'm stuck in this big mansion. And I like to weave that in how particularly I want to deliver this information, as well as kind of be a big old goofball about it. But it, what was I going to say about being a giant goofball? When you think of skits on the internet, people kind of like go to be like, oh, nostalgia critic, or oh, Scott the Woz. And I think there's a stigma there that a lot of people are generally kind of upset about. So I do feel a little like hokey doing these sketches at times, but I have a lot of fun. I like working with all the actors, and I have like Dan Kalka, part of my crew. He really great guy to work with. He knows my thought process, and the kind of my sidekick. I sorry to call you that. But Vinny, who's in a bunch of my videos, I went to college with him, and he's an incredible actor. And honestly, he knows more about film than I do. He's more of a film buff than I am. So what I always feel bad reaching out to him and being like, hey, you want to do a goofy bit about Captain Underpants? And he's like, but every time he's like, yeah, let's do it. I always have a fun time working on these, is the long and short of what I'm saying.
Yeah, it really seems like it really seems like you guys have a lot of fun on this. When I was making, like, whenever I would make sketches and I would need to bring people together for them, it was always sort of a challenge because all of my friends and the people on my crew for years didn't know anything about what they were doing because they were, none of them had a background in film before I was pulling them together and saying, hey, let's make a movie. And so over time they had to learn things. Like my best friend, whose name is also Vinny, which is really funny. He's my assistant director, and for a while he didn't know what he was supposed to be doing, and I kind of had to guide him and be both the director and assistant director and show him how these things are done. And then eventually he finally picked it up on his own, and he became really good at it, even if he won't admit it to me. So I completely get where you're coming from with that. But
that's awesome. That's also kind of one of the advantages. I'm currently based out of Los Angeles at the moment, so that's one of the advantages of being in Los Angeles. People kind of know what to do.
Yeah. I mean, you would think you'd find more people who knew more about this stuff when you live in, New York for your entire life. But then you realize that throughout high school and middle school, you're the only kid who knows anything about film or even likes it, so...
Yeah, and I was talking earlier in a Discord server about how I've gotten incredibly lucky with, like, I was in the one school in the district with, like, an editing software class in 2008, and I was at the college with all these very talented people at the right time, and I also got a job out of the college that I went to. A lot of things really nicely lined up for me, and I'm incredibly grateful for that.
Yeah, no, I feel that too, because now that I'm finally in college, you start to meet people, you start to make connections with people who do know what they're doing. Although they can't seem to replace my crew back home. I care too much about those guys.
Yeah, no, it's going to college is really great because it expands your world. I'm from Florida originally, and so so me being like, I want to make little cinematics, everyone kind of looked at me, especially when YouTube wasn't as prevalent, being like, why don't you become an accountant or something? They still sometimes say that to me, but other than that, it's I think going to college was the right move for me, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, like, I've seen accountants before. Have you ever seen an accountant? They're miserable all the time. There's a good reason for that.
They're great with numbers. I will give them that. They're great with numbers, and they have a steady paycheck. I can't rip against accountants.
Yeah.
Gosh bless accountants.
That's true.
You're good with money, and you're probably a good person at your heart.
Yeah. Except for when they're accounting my taxes, but that's besides the point.
I didn't know this was an anti-accountant podcast.
Sorry, that's one of the things I tend to leave out until the end. I whenever, like, when Ashley was on the podcast, I pulled her aside afterwards and I'm like, oh yeah, by the way, I hate accountants. They're just, they get under my skin. And she hasn't talked to me since. So
you're gonna get canceled by a flock of accountants one day.
Yeah,
better watch out.
Yeah, I gotta watch out for accountant Twitter. They're already they know. But anyway, back to the point of the show. So you mentioned earlier that you've gotten really lucky so far, but besides, all the good things that have led to where you are right now, have there been any, like, prevalent challenges, either, like, personal or technical?
Oh, great question. Let me think about that for a minute. I suppose the challenge for me is just getting people to watch my stuff. It's tough, and like I said before, I'm very lucky to be in the community of people that I am now. But the kind of disadvantage of that is everyone's making stuff, and everyone's making really cool stuff, but it's hard to be like, hey, check me out. I'm doing another YouTube on this site with 1 billion videos. That's the hardest part for me, is just getting people to watch it. And I know what I'm doing for the most part, but to deliver that information in a cohesive and fun way is a big challenge on its own. So, in conclusion, watch my videos. Pew, 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 pew. Those are finger guns.
Yeah, I don't know exactly how it like happened for me, where people actually started watching my stuff, because I woke up one morning. I remember it was a cold September day. I like to describe it like that, but it was actually pretty lukewarm. So, yeah, it's just the kind of thing that I think happens just sometimes. And I'm sure one day, it's gonna happen. I'm sure it's gonna happen for you, where you finally do hit the like that audience that you really deserve.
I appreciate it, man, but also don't question whether you got something good going on. If you got something good, hold on to it and just keep trucking forward with it, and do the best you can with it. If you have an audience and they're really receptive to your work, you can make some really cool things. And if they're a really cool audience, they'll tell you if it stinks or if you should keep doing more.
Yeah, that's definitely something I need to remind myself about more. It's just like, oftentimes, like, one of the main reasons I started this podcast was because once I hit 1,000 subscribers, I was like, I feel like I don't fully deserve this. I feel like there are people who are more deserving of the attention than me. And so I wanted to bring people onto the show who I feel like deserve all the attention that I'm getting. And like,
that might be true in some circumstances, but you also got to think in the opposite direction, that there are people with more subscribers than you that absolutely do not deserve it.
That's true. Yeah.
Because I've seen I don't mean to fluff your ego, but you do put out a lot of videos, and I can tell you put a lot of care into them. So it's not like you're just like recording Family Guy clips from like a camera slightly angled off screen. You're making your own original content, and that's nothing to kind of pish posh about, you know?
My crew who work with me on this stuff, I'll come to them afterwards when I like see the videos doing well and say, I should really be redirecting this to like a while ago I put in my community tab that there was like this animator that I found online, Mammal Friend, who was making these absolutely incredible like flip note animations, and I'm like, oh my god, why do I have 1,000 subscribers and they don't get this fixed? And then they ended up passing me in subs, and I was really happy.
Yeah, animators are the animator and artists are kind of the most disregarded community on YouTube. It's very, very sad, and it kind of killed the animation scene on there, unless you're like a bigger YouTuber that can afford like an animation crew. But Newgrounds, by the way, hey, you should check that out.
You should check out Newgrounds. Animation on Newgrounds, still there, still going strong. And there's a great community there as well. Yeah, except for when I keep getting blamed. That's not fun.
What? Well, what are you gonna do about it?
To be fair, I've been getting blamed since I was 13 because I think my animations that I post there are like 6 seconds long and made for Vine.
Well, if you're making stuff at least.
Yeah,
you're putting yourself out there, and that's more than what 95% of people can say.
Yeah,
that's more than what 95 people can say about themselves.
Yeah, it's the effort. It's the effort that counts. So
yeah, and sometimes you might need not to like an aggressive and toxic and harmful way or standpoint, but every time someone goes, hey, this kind of stinks, you can go, okay, what can I do different to make that better? And that constructive criticism allows you to grow and develop as a creator for sure.
Yeah. I think the most I think like the best criticism I ever got was on a like random, I think it was Human Fall Flat. I was playing Human Fall Flat with Vinny, and we made it into a gameplay video, and he said, and we got a comment saying something along the lines of you should delete your channel. And I'm like, oh, well, that, you know what, that's great constructive criticism. I'm learning a lot from this. I'm not going to do that.
Honestly, sometimes spite is a great motivator.
Yeah.
I hate to say that because I'm generally a positive person, but I do remember distinctly I was at camp one time and I was making jokes, and like one of the older kids went up to me and whispered, "You're not funny." And I'm like, "I'll show him." And he's still in Florida, I guess. So who's laughing now?
No, that's so true, because like even with my friends who are artists and make things for my videos, like Mike and Lily, who've been on the show before, I remember, like, even when we were talking, like, during the episode, I'm pretty sure I would say something along the lines of, you need to do better, you can do it. And they'll be like, oh, but I know Lily specifically said something along the lines of, I try so hard. And I'm like, well, you're not trying hard enough. But like, obviously in a loving way. Like, a lot.
Yeah, no, we can all strive to do a little better, but it has to be at a healthy rate for sure.
Oh yeah, no, of course. Burnout is a bitch.
Yeah, that's honestly kind of what I'm going through at the moment. I'm burnt out. And because I've been making videos since like 2015.
Right.
So I've been making videos for a while, and I feel like I'm not at where I should be. But you know, I can't really complain too much. I'm on a great podcast with my good friend John.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, and people who do really like and appreciate your work really make it all worth it. I was trying to find a less cheesy way to say it, but there's no cheeseless way to say it. They make it worth it, and they really make you want to keep going.
No, but that's absolutely true. Like, I think a couple days ago, I got an Instagram DM from somebody who was watching my videos, and I think it said something along the lines of, hi John, I've been going through a really dark time right now. Your videos bring a little light into my life, so thank you. And I was like, oh, I gotta go make something right now.
That's awesome, dude. I'm glad you're lifting some people's spirits up.
Yeah, it's always very nice to hear. But yeah, I mean, it really is, at the end of the day, like, the one thing that makes everything worthwhile is just knowing that you're doing something good for other people.
I was planning on doing some evil things, actually. I was planning on doing some nefarious and sinister stuff with my channel.
Some sinister plots.
Some sinister plots and schemes, but maybe I should reconsider that. I'll think about it.
I'm using my platform to plan the next big atrocity.
Yes. I'm going to bring Let's Play back, and in a very toxic way.
But yeah, so I guess there's just like 2 more questions left. So is there any lessons or tips that you wish you knew when you started making videos?
Lessons or tips.
Things that you might want to impart on our endearing audience.
I don't know if I'm the best person to give tips and such for video making, but I do generally like finding niches that I don't think are covered a lot on the internet. I tend not to follow trends. So my advice is, hey, follow trends if you want, but make it if you're genuinely interested in it, make a video on it, because those are the best videos, in my opinion, where someone has this great passion for whatever, a GameCube game or whatever, and they just go off about it, and they list like how it affected their lives, their personal experiences. So try to find your niches and try not to go with the flow. If you do another Skibbity toilet parody, great, I'm not going to stop you. But if you're not that passionate about it, I recommend skipping that video. So follow your passion is my biggest thing. And also don't be really concerned about numbers in the first place. I know I was complaining a little bit earlier about numbers, and they do, and like low view counts or high view counts or low subscribers or high subscribers, it does affect you to a certain extent. But you can't really just focus on that. I mean, I've had people with 1 million subscribers on, I've had people with 3 subscribers on. The thing that matters is you make a good video and you enjoy what you do. So I guess my 2 pieces of advice are the numbers don't matter and find your niche.
Yeah, that's definitely true. Unless, of course, your niche is Skibbity Toilet, in which case you should rethink things a little bit.
No, if your niche is Skibbity Toilet, you do the best darn Skibbity Toilet parody there is on the internet. You thrive it. If you're the Skibbity Toilet guy, hire me.
Now I'm thinking about is when Danebo was on Flashback with Smosh, and they said that the annoying orange was like the first Skibbity Toilet, and that like had me rolling for 20 minutes. Yeah, Smosh puts out some good stuff. I'm generally friendly to Smosh because I worked with them for a brief time. Yeah, that must have been pretty cool.
a name drop. Yeah, I mean, I had fun doing it. But I'm not doing that anymore. So I can say Smosh stinks. They're ill. They're ill and they need to pay their bills.
Oh man, you heard it here first, Smosh. Get your act together. Okay.
No. I love Smosh. I'm joking. I love Smosh. I love it. Okay. You think Smosh will hire me back?
Maybe. You know, it depends on whether or not they see this.
Probably. They hear this and you're like, oh, we gotta get a restraining order against this guy. Oh, jeez.
It's all downhill.
He's yelling about stuff that happened 8 years ago. He's not well. He should get a therapist or something. Ooh.
Yeah. Well, this is normally the part of the show where I'd ask you if there was anything you wanted to plug, but I think you did that earlier. But if you want to again...
Yeah, I'll plug it again. I am Gage Agnew on everywhere. Gage Agnew on Twitter. Gage Agnew on TikTok, Instagram. What other platforms? YouTube. I'm Gage Agnew on YouTube. And I make fun little videos. Mainly I make video essays in a series called Gage Your Interest. That's Gage, your interest. And I like doing interviews myself, mildly familiar, almost adults. I like ranting too. As you can probably tell by this podcast, I like to ramble on about whatever. And the video I want to promote is Gage Your Interest, Ace Attorney. I mentioned it a bit earlier, but it was a lot of fun to film. I have a lot of great guests on there. People behind the scenes include Dan Kalka, Alex Keel, who's been with me since like the first Gage Your Interest, and who else is behind the scenes? The thumbnail artist for that was Paleoraptor, who's done some stuff with Lyle Rath before, and they do their own artistic work, which I love. And something overlooked in there is Aaron Overton actually did a theme for the prosecutor.
Really?
Yeah, that a lot of the music is lifted from the Ace Attorney games, but I wanted to make a theme for the prosecutor because in most Ace Attorney games, the prosecutors have their own theme. So I wanted to make a theme unique to the prosecutor, and I asked Aaron Overton, once again, for those who forgot, to make a theme kind of reminiscent of GBA and DS games, and I think he did a great job with it.
Wow, I genuinely couldn't tell that it wasn't from the games. That's incredibly impressive.
Thank you. If you notice that, then you have a great ear, or you like Ace Attorney too much. Which I like Ace Attorney too much too. I'm not gonna lie. I'm gonna stream it a little bit later. Oh yeah, I'm also on Twitch, twitch.tv/Gage Agnew. Currently, I'm playing through Super Mario RPG with my good friend Sweet Bean Amin, and I might do a little bit of Apollo Justice down the line. The Apollo Justice trilogy is coming out at the end of January, so you might see some cases from that.
Ooh, come to think of it, I should tell Mike he's a massive Ace Attorney fan.
Mikey, the Ace Attorney is coming out with some HD games. There you go, I told him.
Thank you. Well, this has been really fun. Thank you for coming on the show, Gage.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm willing to come back anytime if you need me to yell at you or the general community. I am more than happy to do it.
That's perfect, because I do have something interesting planned for the finale of this season, but I'm not gonna say anything yet. I'm keeping my lips zipped. I'm not gonna pull another Quest 4. That's not gonna happen where I just spill the beans about everything.
Man, you have seasons for this podcast? You're more professional than me. I kind of just make videos, and I hope this one does good.
Yeah, I mean, like, for most of my stuff, for like random things, obvious things like that, I don't have like seasons, but for podcasts, when I upload them, they give me the option to split them into seasons. So I'm like, that's not a bad idea. And then the first podcast I ever did that with ended after a season and a half, but still.
Hey, trial and error. We got to keep pushing our stuff till someone says, okay, I'll listen to it, darn it.
Yeah. Well, folks, that is our show. I hope you all enjoyed, and I'll hopefully see you next time. Make sure to check out the other episodes of this show here on Spotify, and I will, again, see you all next time. Bye-bye.